protecting human rights, especially the right to bodily integrity, remains a consistent policy in Vietnam. This commitment was further solidified when the country officially joined the United Nations Convention Against Torture in 2015.
And to best fulfill its obligations as a member state, Vietnamese authorities are actively making efforts to approach international models to enhance investigations, evidence collection, and the documentation of torture cases.
In late January, Vietnam's Ministry of Public Security, in collaboration with the UNDP, organized an international workshop to introduce the Istanbul Protocol. This document provides detailed guidelines for the effective investigation and documentation of torture.
The protocol details technical guidance for implementing a comprehensive process. It fosters coordination among various agencies, such as medical experts, lawyers, judges, and prosecutors. Improved litigation procedures and coordination will ultimately ensure victims' rights.
Before this, in late 2025, the Ministry of Public Security also worked with the UNDP to organize exchanges and research on the Mendes Principles, a set of guidelines on effective interviewing for investigations and information gathering. Proactively approaching international frameworks like the Istanbul Protocol or the Mendes Principles acts as a practical step in implementing the UN Convention Against Torture.
As a unit responsible for both investigation and detention, the Department of Security Investigation has actively implemented government programs to enforce the convention, along with other law enforcement agencies. We pay close attention to relevant international documents to ensure the convention is best implemented within the framework of Vietnam's laws.
Efforts to guarantee human rights in the country have been consistent and comprehensive, protecting all subjects, including victims, detainees, defendants, and law enforcement officers. Since the first constitution in 1946, all acts of human rights violation have been strictly prohibited. Since then, the legal system has been continuously refined, from the constitution to specialized codes, creating a solid legal corridor to prevent torture and coerced confessions.
The strong commitment of the party and state of Vietnam regarding human rights protection has been institutionalized in legal regulations. The criminal code now contains very specific provisions on crime related to torture, corporal punishment, and coercion, detailing the responsibilities of relevant parties, aiming to build a judicial environment that guarantees human rights.
Through concrete steps in adopting international models, Vietnam has demonstrated concentrated efforts to protect human rights and combat torture. This confirms that the implementation of the Convention Against Torture goes beyond mere commitment. It is being realized through effective actions.
Among the international models that Vietnam is currently studying and approaching, the Istanbul Protocol stands out as a comprehensive guide for the effective investigation and documentation of cases involving torture, ill treatment, or corporal punishment.
And to better understand the value of this protocol, as well as the international community's commitment to supporting Vietnam, our Vietnam Today reporter spoke with Ms. Marie Breschold, Vice Chairperson of the UN Subcommittee on the Prevention of Torture, as well as Ms. Federica Dispenza, Assistant Resident Representative of the UNDP in Vietnam.
Thank you for joining us today. Could you tell me about the importance of the Istanbul Protocol?
Developed by experts from more than 80 countries. The document gives professional guidance so that we ensure that cases of torture are adequately documented. What the Istanbul Protocol stresses is the collaboration between different types of professionals. So working with doctors alone is not enough. It requires a whole system, judges to understand how what medical legal documentation can do. And it requires also lawyers and prosecutors and authorities, ministries in general, to understand the whole flow of a case of torture from the moment of allegation to the moment where the perpetrator has been prosecuted and the victim has received the rights that he is entitled to.
How do you evaluate Vietnam's current proactivity in approaching the standards of the protocol?
We really do welcome the openness of Vietnam and the strategic endeavor that the country is making into engaging with the human rights ecosystem in general, including the CAT, and applying global best practices and standards like the Istanbul Protocol.
What are some specific programs of UNDP to support Vietnam in the future?
The concrete next steps will require moving from knowledge to practice. So we look forward to continuing this journey together with the government of Vietnam, making sure that the adoption or the implementation of standards like the Istanbul Protocols is properly sequenced, prioritized, and tailored to the context of Vietnam and to the ambitions of Vietnam.
Thank you for sharing your insight with Vietnam today.
Thank you very much.